In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 reasons why I'm convinced that the middle class in the developing world, as well as the developed world, are going to have a lot of problems over the next coming decade. For quite some time, I've been talking about the fact that the middle class in the developing world and the developed world has become too complacent, too addicted to comfort, security, and entertainment. And because of that, they have not been paying attention to some of the macro forces and the micro forces that are converging together to create a perfect storm of changes that are going to affect the middle class over the next 10 years. Here are the 5 reasons why I believe the middle class is in a lot of trouble. Reason number 1, they're not skilled for the social and digital and AI-based economy. A lot of professionals who educated themselves for the old world, and the world has changed dramatically. A lot of professionals have demonstrated the inability to adapt to the new world that we're heading towards by not embracing some of the contributors that actually result in career and commercial success. From poor communication capability to poor ability to integrate social into their marketing and communication methods, to not having an understanding of how to leverage AI, these reasons are going to contribute to the fact that the middle class is going to potentially struggle, because the way that they have been educated over the last 10 or 20 years is simply not going to be enough for the changes that are about to happen. The second reason why I believe the middle class is in trouble is that they're not aware. And when I say that they're not aware of the global changes. They're not aware of the globalist agenda that seeks to undermine freedom and democracy and capitalism across the world. I've asked a lot of professionals about what they think about what is going on with the broader global changes, the 4th Industrial Revolution, the New World Order, and I just get a blank look, and seriously baffles me as to what have they been doing for the last 4 years if they're not aware of these changes. You see, if you're only looking at the mainstream media to inform you, the problem is you're not going to be informed. You're going to be misinformed. If you really want to be informed, you have to develop research capabilities so you can find out what's actually happening behind the scenes. There are a multitude of changes, from digital ID to central bank digital currency to increased surveillance to a new form of central bank control to intense monitoring to the Misinformation Act. All of these things are designed to restrict people's ability to be able to express themselves, to be able to move around, and to have the level of freedoms that they have been accustomed to over the last 30 or 40 years. All of that is under threat, but the majority of people are simply not aware, especially the middle class. They're not aware, and they're not prepared for these changes that are about to happen. The third reason why I believe that the middle class is going to struggle a lot over the next decade is because they're not growth-minded. They're simply not going after new knowledge, new wisdom, and new way of doing things. They're actually resisting. I know it firsthand. I try and challenge people's paradigms. I give them new information, but they're just not interested. They have developed a fixed mindset, and maybe it's because they've spent 12 or 16 years in the institutions and they have been told the same thing over and over and over again. And now what's happened is it almost seems like they've got this fixed mindset, a fixed way of thinking, and any narrative that challenges their belief, challenges their worldview, is simply rejected by them without even a desire to examine it. And so I think this problem of not being growth-minded is definitely going to get in their way of being able to adapt fast and be able to upskill themselves for the types of things that they're going to need to learn and implement over the next 10 years. The fourth reason why I think that the middle class in the developed world and the developing world is in a lot of trouble over the next 10 years is they're simply not hungry. They're not ambitious enough. They are security orientated. They're not understanding that they're going to need to work a lot more. They're going to need to produce a lot more. They're going to need to create and perform at higher levels than they've ever done. I don't think that they're realizing that with the level of ambition that they've got, which only wants to just earn a secure living and doesn't want to do anything beyond that, that type of ambition, which is very low levels, I think it's going to cause for a lot of people to settle prematurely because they don't understand that when things like interest rates go up and inflation goes up, they're going to find themselves not being properly equipped. And I think a lot of them are going to find that when they really start to consider how much taxes they're paying on their income, from income tax to GST to stamp duties to all the other levies, capital gains tax, majority of people don't realize that more than half of their income actually goes on taxes. And simply because they're accepting that, they're not really fighting that, they're not really working towards high levels of income, a lot of them are going to find that the current level of income that they're comfortable with is simply not going to be enough for them over the next 10 years. And the fifth reason why I think that the middle class in the developed world and the developing world is in a lot of trouble is they're just not concerned enough. For some reason, there seems to be this massive apathy or indifference towards what is happening. I don't know what it is. It's almost like they've just lost their drive, or maybe they're just demoralized and they've just given up. And I understand and I empathize with that up to a point, but I also believe that people need to wake up and be more concerned about their future. They need to be more concerned about the way the governments are running countries. They need to be more concerned at the level of addiction that people have towards entertainment and towards the social media and all of that sort of stuff, which basically means that people are not producing enough, and per capita productivity just is very, very low when you look at the middle class. And I think people need to also be concerned about the fact that, if they were to live a long time, and with all the global changes that I've already mentioned, if those changes were to come into effect, a lot of people are going to find that they just haven't made enough provisions for their own future, let alone the future of their children and grandchildren. I would love to hear from you. I know that, this can sound quite pessimistic, but it's not pessimistic. For me, I'm pretty excited about the future because I've been anticipating it, I've been preparing for it, I've been planning for it. So I'm not afraid, and this is not about pessimism. This is about being a realist. This is about acknowledging what is going on, because until we acknowledge that a problem exists, we are never going to work towards a solution. I want you to understand that the middle class is the next demographic that is being targeted for globalist and political policies, because it is now understood that majority of people who are making these rules and public policies believe that middle class consumption is too high and it's just unsustainable because of their climate change goals. So I want you to understand that whether you agree with it or not, the fact is that these people have made up their mind that they're going to bring up these changes, and these changes are going to affect the middle class disproportionately, and it's not going to be for the good. So the reason I'm doing this video is to instill a sense of urgency and a sense of action in people, so people can start to understand that apathy and indifference is just not going to help. People are going to need to start working a lot harder than they have. They're going to need to become a lot more organized, a lot more planned, and a lot more prepared if they want to make sure that they don't become the losers over the next coming decade.